Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Nat Walsh. Today we are going to play, it is a Stampin' Up set, but it's one of those crafty ones. So I'm trying to give you an idea of what to do with some of those crafty sets, because I sort of looked at this for quite a while and went, what on earth am I going to do this? So we are using Squeezed Lemonade, we are using Salty Ocean, and the new one, hopefully I don't kill the name, Kitsch Flamingo. I think that's it. This is a darkroom door stencil. It's a small rectangle stencil, and it's great because you also have the mask, the inside of the stencil for the big hole as well. So you can use it both two different ways. Well, there's a few different ways you can use it, but there's a couple of different ways you can use it. So coming in with a Kitsch Flamingo. I'm pretty sure that's it, but I'm not too sure. It's a pretty pink. It's a soft, pretty pink. I'm just sort of trying to, it's a little bit blotchy, but it's going to smooth out the more that we blend and we come back and forth. So usually the first time you put these colors down, they're a little bit ugly, let's be honest. And then you have to work on it. You work through it and you get a pretty little mixed of blending of color. The Salty Ocean can be quite strong, so I've dabbed a little bit of that off, and we're just going to go back and forth with our colors to try and get that nice smooth blend. My focus is doing something really bizarre here. I don't really know why, but because when I reach over, it's moved slightly. But honestly, I think that's pretty darn good. I'm flicking on a little bit of water. I'm going to let that sit for a couple of minutes, and then we'll use a paper towel and blot that off. Add a bit more water. Possibly in too close. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe. I'm still learning. Blot that off. And then off camera, I will dry that with my heat tool. So it's pretty. It's pretty colours. I like the Kitsch Flamingo. It's nice. I've got a little tea ruler here, and all I'm going to do is just do some lines, two little lines going up. I don't particularly want them to be very even. I'm not fussing with it too much. And the top and bottom lines are actually going to overlap. So it's just frames it quite nicely, I think. I personally think. But, you know, each their own. I'm using a point, my favourite, Copic multi-liner pen, the 0.3. 0.03? 3.3. I just stop and think. The 0.3. So we're going to use some, so the Stampin' Up stamp set is called Crafting Forever. There is quite a few at the moment out and about. So as I said, not everyone gets access to Stampin' Up, and not everyone wants Stampin' Up, but it's the idea. I'm trying to give you the idea of what you could do with these things. I'm going in with my Copic markers. Now I'm pretty much going to stay with very similar colors. So for my pot, I used C4, C2, and 0. That is obviously was the same for the little knife there. You know, I do have an issue with that knife. Who leaves their knives upright? I don't. Although I don't actually. If I have a knife like that, I put a lid on it. I mean, if it had a lid on it, then that's fine. Okay, I digress. Because, you know, I suppose the mummer in me sort of goes, that's not very safe. But anyway. Oh dear. I'm going to use a couple of colours for my bristles. I'm going to use, and guess what? I put my phone on silent. I actually remembered. We all say hallelujah. Anyway, I'm going to use a couple of colours of my bristles. I'm trying to get this voiceover done super quickly because the boys are due home like within the next 10 minutes. And if you saw my last video on Wednesday, once they were home, I was on the struggle bus to try and find some quiet time. So the two colors, well, the two different types of brown I'm going to use is a mixture of E37, 35 and 33. That's one blend. And E77, 74 and 71. Because I don't know about you, but I have lots of different, quite a few bristles, and none of them are really the same color. So I thought it would be nice and interesting just to have those two just floating around. I'm using my darkest for my shading, of course, down at the base of the bristle, and if any of them are behind another one, so the one that I'm doing just there, they're sort of behind another paintbrush. And I'm trying, mostly I've kept my bristles, my different colors separated, mostly. It ain't perfect, but it's a handmade card, not a Hallmark. Anywho, on a couple of my brushes, I'm going to use not E7, W7, W5 and W2. And then we're going to have a mixture of the blue, the pink and the yellow. And again, I'm roughly sort of just keeping them separated for the different shading. And I'm also going to use the same colors through for any little, there's a band on that big paintbrush, and I'm going to use one of the other colors on that. So I'm not introducing any different colors. And that's what I find. If you're introducing too many different colors, it just tends to, if I was to introduce a really deep green, it will just stand out way too much for my liking. Maybe each their own, but that's my way of thinking. And that's the thing. This is my card. You do you, and I'm going to do me. So my Bs, B16, B14 and B12. My pinks are the 85 range, 80s range I should say. 85 are 83 and 81. Now my yellows, I sort of did a little bit of a goldy type of color that this is what I try and do for a goldy type of color anyway. It's YR23, Y17 and Y15. And we're just going through. This video wasn't terribly long, so I only sped it up about double time this time. So hopefully people like it sped up, because I personally don't like people where they're sort of rambling on, as she says, rambling on about all the different bits and pieces. Okay, there's a good chunk of us know roughly what we're doing. So if I come in and tell you anything, if I do anything different, then I'm going to come in and tell you. But if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I go from darkest down to lightest, and then I will go back up to the dark color. And sometimes, mostly, I try and put my lightest color in to map out where my shading is. But saying that, I'm not going to do that on really tiny little thin brushes like these dudes. Okay, it's not going to happen. I'm going to be looking at that for anything that is quite big, and anything that I am still trying to figure out where all the shading is going to go, because the lightest color, it's not going to matter if I get it wrong, whereas obviously the darkest color it will. So I've trimmed all that out, because you don't need to watch me go around in my scissors, going around doing the thing that I always do with a black soot distress marker and just going over my edges, which I just find it finishes all off. I am not one of these people that like sort of the white edge, like the outline. I don't mind it. It's just on my cards, I'm not a big fan. And so once again, you do you, I'm going to do me. I've already put some foam mounting on that just to try and save you up a bit of time, because I did want it a little bit on my brushes because it was just a bit too flimsy and a bit too small. Like usual, I'm going to ground my images. So I'm using these 3 colors, the C7, C5, just to put a little bit of a ground, a little bit of a floor, so it's not looking like it's floating in mid-air. And I think that pretty much just sort of finishes it off, really, like in the sense of it's floating. As I said, that's what I like. Don't worry about whatever someone else likes. Just do what you like. Now I did make this is my second card, because I originally made this card just for the sake of it. And I thought, no, I actually really like how that turned out. So there's a sentiment in the stamp set. It says, do something creative every day. So I'm going to stamp that out twice and then clear emboss it, just to make it a little bit more glossy and just stand out that little bit more. So I'm going to heat that up. I'm trying to keep it away. I'm going to try and make sure the heat gun is away from my foam, because I clearly don't want it to warp my foam. The foam, not the phone, the foam. So I'm getting distracted. My usual thing, my phone taped down. I said it again, didn't I? Phone. It's a long week. So here in Australia, we've had a very brief 5-day lockdown because the strands of COVID were the English, well, we call it the English strand, had come out of hotel quarantine. So they would just gave us a 5-day lockdown to try and catch up, because most of us probably know that it's pretty fast moving. That's pretty much it, my card. Take care, subscribe and like to this video. That'd be awesome. Bye.